Thank you, Madam President. Over the last few years, anti-abortion legislators and proponents have been alarmingly successful at pursuing abortion restrictions at the federal and state levels, which have made it even more difficult for women who are struggling economically to access abortion care. These same legislators have been very explicit about the goal of overturning Roe v. Wade, yet they saw no hypocrisy in the withholding of Merrick Garland's nomination to the Supreme Court and the railroading of Amy Coney Barrett through that same Senate Judiciary Committee before Ruth Bader Ginsburg's family even had time to grieve, just to justify the Supreme Court's role in making a mockery of women's reproductive rights. Due to factors such as structural racism and discrimination, women of color face rampant income inequality and are more likely to be covered by Medicaid as a result. They are therefore disproportionately impacted by the restrictions of the Hyde Amendment, which bans federal funds for abortion care with the use of Medicaid funds. Similar funding restrictions limit the ability of indigenous women who receive care through the Indian Health Service from accessing abortion. Anti-abortion proponents try to peddle the notion that women of color agree that abortion access should be further restricted. But recent polling from the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum, National Latina Institute for Reproductive Health, and in our own voice, National Black Women's Reproductive Justice Agenda, shows this to be patently false. A majority of women of color believe it is extremely important for women to have complete authority to make decisions about their bodies and their lives. Furthermore, 9 in 10 women of color believe that being able to control if, when, and how to have children produces both individual and societal benefits. Spewing alternative data and facts does not change this. Women of color's access to abortion care are even more critical when considering pervasive health disparities we face in comparison to white women. In nearly all aspects of reproductive health, women of color face poorer health outcomes than white women. From maternal mortality rates to endometrial and cervical cancer. Further, women of color, particularly Black women, frequently have negative experiences in the healthcare system due to institutionalized racism and a history of control, coercion, and lack of bodily autonomy when it comes to our reproductive health and decision-making. Low-income women are more than 5 times more likely than affluent women to experience an unintended pregnancy. While the abortion rate for American women declined by 8% between 2000 and 2008, among poor women, it increased by 18%. Carrying an unwanted pregnancy to term quadrupled the odds that a new mother and her child would live below the poverty line. And women who were refused abortions were nearly 4 times as likely to live below the federal poverty line 4 years later, as women were allowed to make a reproductive decision. When young women were able to better access birth control as part of their parents' insurance plans, which is a provision of the Affordable Care Act, the abortion rate in this age group fell by 10%. Women of color already face layers of barriers in accessing abortion care. New restrictions only make it worse. We deserve more supportive policies that give full autonomy in deciding if, when, and how to become a parent, not bad medicine laws that further curtail choices. I close with a passage from Monica Hess's sobering op-ed in the Washington Post regarding the Right to Life March. She said, and I quote, "Your theme this year is equality begins in the womb, which is really smart. I'm excited for you to reveal the sweeping legislation you have up your sleeve, pursuant to this extraordinary dedication to equality. The immediate passage of the Equal Rights Amendment, perhaps? Racial and economic justice initiatives to specifically help Black women and poor women? I hope I'm not getting my hopes up. Otherwise, I would think the theme would read, equality begins in the womb and also ends there. Thank you, Madam President.